here real quick for journaling tonight. So not all we don't always have to be verbal with our prayers. We can actually write them down. It's kind of what David did, as you'll notice. But he says this in Psalm 55. It says, "Listen to my prayer, O God. Do not ignore my plea. Hear me and answer me. My thoughts trouble me, and I am distraught because of what my enemy is saying, because of the threats of the wicked. For they bring down suffering on me and assail me in their anger. My heart is in anguish within me. The terror of death have fallen on me. Fear and trembling have beset me. Horror has overwhelmed me. I said, oh, that I had the wings of a dove. I would fly away and be at rest. I would flee far away and stay in the desert." Ever have one of those prayers? God, just remove this from me, or take me away, or God, just would you stop this from happening? That's David's prayer. If I would just have wings, I could fly out of here. If I could just get on a jet plane. That's that song from the 70s. Down a jet plane. You know, that's David right there. My thoughts trouble me, and I am distraught because of what my enemy is saying, because of the threats of the wicked. For they bring down suffering on me and assail my heart in anger. I think I just read that. Sorry. My heart is in anguish within me. The terror of death has fallen on me. Fear and trembling have beset me. Horror has overwhelmed me. Verse 6, I said, oh, that if I had the wings of doves, I would fly away and be at rest. I would flee far away and stay in the desert. I would hurry to my place of shelter, far from the tempest and storm. Verse 9, Lord, confuse the wicked, confound their words. For I see violence and strife in the city. Day and night they prowl about on its walls. Malice and abuse are within it. Destructive forces are at work in the city. Threats and lies never leave its streets. If an enemy were insulting me, I could endure it. If a foe were rising against me, I could hide. But it is you, a man like myself, my companion, my close friend, with whom I once enjoyed sweet fellowship at the house of God, as we walked about among the worshipers. Let death take my enemies by surprise. Let them go down alive to the realm of the dead, for evil finds longing among them. Verse 16, for me, I call to God, and the Lord saves me. Evening, morning, and noon, I cry out in distress. By the way, that's David's time of prayer, 3 times a day. He rescued me unharmed from the battle wages against me, even though many oppose me. God, who is enthroned from old, who does not change, he will hear them and humble them, because they have no fear of God. My companion attacks his friends. He violates his covenant. His mouth, well, his talk is smooth as butter, yet war is in his heart. His words are more soothing than oil, yet they are drawn swords. Cast your cares on the Lord, and he will sustain you. He will never let the righteous be shaken, but you, O God, will bring down the wicked into the pit of decay. The bloodthirsty and deceitful will not live out half their days. But as for me, I trust you. David goes through probably some of the feelings that we do, if we're completely honest, is that some days, God, why do I even open my mouth? Because it seems like the words that I utter and the cries of my heart, the anguish and the tears that run off my face at night, they just seem like it's not going anywhere. But David walks us through those emotions, and his last words are so befitting, and it shows what happens when we press into the Lord with everything that we have. But as for me, I trust in you. When all else fades away, when everything else, cast your cares on the Lord, and he will sustain you. He will never let the righteous be shaken. Be reminded that although there might not be earthly punishment for the wicked, their day of judgment is coming. So trust in the Lord. Those are David's words. Tonight, let's just go before the Lord and lift his name on high. and let's sing a couple songs together, and then I'm going to release us to some personal journal time, personal reflection. And tonight I will just encourage you to, I know that some people don't necessarily journal all of the time, but that's what I'm going to encourage you to do, is actually write down your prayers tonight. Write down your thoughts concerning the scriptures, and then tuck it away in your Bible. All right? Would you stand with me tonight as we sing? So This love is so deep, it's more than I can stand. Melt in your peace, it's overwhelming. The more I seek you, the more I find you. The more I find you, the more I love you. I wanna sit at your feet, drink from the cup in your hand, lay back against you and breathe, feel your heartbeat. This love is so deep, it's more than I can stand. I melt in your peace, it's overwhelming. I wanna sit at your feet, drink from the cup in your hand, lay back against you and breathe, feel your heartbeat. This love is so deep, it's more than I can stand. I melt in your peace, it's overwhelming. You know, when I sing that song, it just I'm thinking David's Psalm 55 tonight just reminds us of that. It wasn't like he prayed once and went, I rubbed the lamp. He didn't answer my prayer, so I'm done. You get this understanding from David in Psalm 55 that when he says evening, morning, and noon, there's a consistent, constant moaning and groaning, anguish, and not giving up. There was a constant seeking of his face. And so maybe tonight God's calling you to be a little bit more persistent in your prayer life and praying over situations and people's salvation and people's needs. You know, Barb Klingensmith had surgery on Monday. She had back surgery. It was a lot more extensive than what they had anticipated, and so they kept her a little bit longer. The last I'd heard, she was supposed to be coming home today, but that's a family that needs your prayers. Steve Rogers, his brother that lives out in Colorado, just had extensive neck surgery this past week, and they put a steel cage in around a wire mesh cage in his neck. I think this is his brother's 12th back surgery. And so it's a family that needs your prayers. His brother's out there all alone. He doesn't. All of the rest of the family's back here. His name's Mike. Prayer requests, a couple prayer requests that came through tonight. Steve's grandpa, they just rushed him to the hospital tonight because he has a 104 fever. They're not exactly sure what's going on there, but for a man that's in his 80s, that's probably not a really good thing to have happen to you. I'm just saying, it's hard enough on you when you're a lot younger than that. So it's a man that needs your prayers. And then Dennis and Carol's son, Josh Patterson, for the last couple of years has had on and off again onsets of Guillain-Barré syndrome. And it's been a while since he's had any problems with it, but this past week it caused it to flare up. And so he's in Pittsburgh right now, or at least was today, getting treatment for that. So there's a lot of people hurting physically and spiritually around us, and just really need us to seek his face and not give up, and not get frustrated when we think our God's too slow to answer our prayers, because I'm sure that's how David felt too. But I'll remind us as we get ready to sing our last song tonight, as verse 1 does, this is, my hope is built on nothing less than who? Jesus' blood and his righteousness. Seated. Cast your cares on the Lord, and he will sustain you. He will never let the righteous be shaken. But you, O God, will bring down the wicked into the pit of decay. The bloodthirsty and deceitful will not live out half their days. But for me, I trust in you, Lord. Tonight, I want to encourage you to go back and read Psalm 55 again. And you have your prayer guide there in front of you. I'd encourage you to just use the time to journal the specific prayer prompts that are there tonight. Take some time as you go back through Psalm 55 and write out those praiseworthy attributes, the character of God that speaks most to you as you go through those. And it's in some big chunks as you go through that. And then after you've had a chance to kind of break that down just a little bit tonight, go to the Lord in prayer. Lord, thank you for the many times you've carried my burdens, especially when. And then journal about that, when you've seen him carry your burdens. And after journeying for a little while and just listening for the Lord to speak Surrender to him and his ways. God, I surrender my anguish over. For many of us, myself included, that's probably not a hard one to fill in. There's some anxiety, there's some anguish in my life. I confess I am fearful and overwhelmed about. Maybe that's what you need to, God's leading you to focus on tonight. And then if you flip over onto the back side of your thing at your prayer guide, it's just bring our requests. I just mentioned a bunch of them. Hopefully you guys could understand me with all of the guitar playing that was going on. Just bring our concerns, resources, and relationships before God, and then ask him to assure me, Lord, that you hear my voice when I call out to you about. And remember, go back in your prayer life about prayers and just, God, bring to my mind the ways that you've answered the prayers throughout my life. So many times we forget to do that, and we just kind of move on. And then as you get ready to leave tonight, don't forget the last section, encouragement for strength. Help me to trust you in your victory over my battle with the emotions of. And that might not be an easy one tonight. It might challenge us to sit and soak and listen for a while. But I would just encourage you, use the time tonight to write your prayers out to God, and not just leave the page blank. And so just enjoy the time with the Lord tonight. And when you're done, you are dismissed. You are free to leave. Head back out into the mission field. And so I'll say thanks for coming tonight. Enjoy your time with the Lord.